this computer. Okay. So we're going to look into legal, technological, and political environments of global business. The importance of the legal, technological, and political environment for all international business managers to actually understand. Okay. Now, so there's three learning objectives by the end of this lesson. Number one, at least you should be able to describe the major types of legal systems that international businesses are confronted with. The world is so diverse, but we can, classify it into a few legal, few main legal systems that exist. Okay, but of course it varies a little bit. And secondly, we want to actually this first is legal. Okay, with legal system. Secondly, technological environment, impact of the host country's technological environment on international business, and obviously the third one is political. So there's three environments that we need to actually look into. So there is this case study, even though the previous edition is actually given at the end of towards the end of the chapter. Okay, do you know this area, South China Sea? Have you heard of the disputes that's actually going on? Maybe not, maybe yes. Okay, but just briefly, this is where actually Malaysia is. So Malaysia is this here, Vietnam, China. So this South China Sea stretches from the Straits of Taiwan. Let me just see whether I can. Okay, turn on laser. Okay. So Taiwan here until Straits of Malacca. This is Straits of Malacca here. Okay. And there's it's yield 1/10 of the world's commercial fish catch is this area. So, and countries are squabbling over three small island chains: the Spratly Islands, the Pinnacle Islands, or this Paracel Island. Okay, so all these are being disputed by China, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Japan. Okay, because of the so-called economic potential of oil and gas that actually is said to have is available actually in this area. So nations are trying to claim that it is actually their area. Okay, and of course it's also political, right? And so some of the like China, I think China is trying to dominate mostly these areas. Okay, China, in fact, China claim all this area. Malaysia only claims Spratly Islands. That's why the border here, you see the border here, the dotted line. So this is only claimed by Malaysia and China and Vietnam. Okay, Vietnam claims this. So there is this dispute, and it's still not settled until today. Okay, it's not settled, and everybody is trying to claim this area. So imagine and it involves legal aspects and many other things. So this is just one example of what we call as trying to do business on global basis. So you need to understand various dimensions of country's environment on management of firms' international business. Why do you think, Sarah, that we need to understand this? Any opinions? Why do we need to understand these various dimensions? Why?
Because, well, it has an impact on how, uh, well, the market, of course.
Okay, impact. Okay, it has impact, and we are affected by all these different conditions, because all decisions faced by international managers will be affected by these legal requirements, technological environment, technological environment, the availability of resources, as well as political conditions and so on. So we are focusing only on these three. Okay, maybe you have heard of PESTEL, like political and economy, social. Social is next chapter, which is actually probably more on culture. But today we are going to focus on legal, technological, and political. Okay, it's a big topic. It's not a small topic. It's a big topic. But we probably just look at the relevant ones. Okay, so imagine domestic firms, they need to actually abide by the laws and customs of the country in which they do business. Okay, basically that's what if you are doing business, so you need to actually follow whatever regulation in terms of employment act, labor laws, environmental protection, use of materials. Okay, so imagine if you go abroad, then it's going to be much more complicated, because you are not going to only required to comply to the law of the home country, but also the host country. Okay, and of course, it will affect your costs, it will affect your flexibility, it will affect a lot of things, because you're going now trying to comply to two different sets of rules and regulations. Okay, and obviously it will become much more costlier, right? Cost will increase basically if you if you do that. Okay, so things like the laws that determine, you need to know what the law that determine markets that you can serve, what kind of product is it protected by local requirements. Local requirement require that you must pay a certain minimum wage, for example. So you need to actually comply to that. Okay, how much you can charge, cost of inputs, wages, source of raw material, and even the location of activities you invest or you produce your try to do business. Does it protect your IP, international intellectual property? Like IKEA invest in China. They produce furnitures, design new furnitures, right? So are their design protected by the local law? I mean, in the foreign country, I mean, in China. So if it is weak, then you're going to be affected, because your IP will be stolen. So those are the issues, right? Those are the issues. So you need a legal. I mean, if the legal framework doesn't protect your IP, then you need to you need to have your own lawyers to actually fight and settle the dispute, probably, if there is a dispute, right? Okay, right. So first of all is legal environment, legal systems. Okay, legal differences in legal systems. Okay, differences. So national legal system actually varies dramatically. Well, for many reasons, because the world is already old. Okay, we have seen changes of rulers and leaders, and it is actually influenced by historical, cultural, political, and religious reasons. Okay, and this will actually determine the rule of law, the legal system, the role of lawyers, all this. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, so I won't be able to, unless but basically, if you go to the courts, will your rights be protected? Even a business, if they have issues with the locals, okay, or the host country's system, can they be fairly be treated when they go to the courts of law? Okay, and I think the book gave an example about labor law regarding laying off workers. Okay, in the US, it's easy to lay off people, especially in the times of difficulties. But according to the Belgian law, there are certain compensation, certain severance pay that you need to actually compensation before you actually lay off. Lay off. You terminate because of economic reasons. Like for example, during the COVID. So this is actually a Belgian company brings. So that ran afoul of Belgium law, labor laws. Okay, because they sack, or not, they sack the what they call employees without understanding what is the local labor laws requirement is. Okay. Let me just read. In Belgium, firms wishing to trim their workforces must provide each worker with a reasonable advance notice. Same in Malaysia. Malaysia also, we need to actually have an advance notice and severance pay. That means the compensation. So reasonable notice varies according to job status, salary level, and seniority. For example, white collar workers with less than 3 years seniority, 91 calendar days is reasonable. So for a colleague with over 5 years seniority, the definitely changes to 30 days for each year of service. So they didn't follow this, so Brain's subsidiary declared bankruptcy as a result of its high labor costs. Okay, they didn't know, because it's very costly, right? When you try to lay off workers during a time of crisis. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, that's basically what we are. We can look at other examples about the need for for international managers to understand what is the rule of law in that country. Okay. Any questions? So I'm going to explain the general, 4 major types of laws that exist in the world. I can relate to especially one of them, which is actually common law, because historically, that's why history. Countries like there's 4. Okay, common law, civil law, religious law, and bureaucratic law. So common law is the foundation of legal systems in the UK, Britain, okay, and its former colonies, including Malaysia, Hong Kong, India, Singapore. Why is it Singapore not written here? Okay, Singapore. So it's a common law, okay, so this is the common law. Is based on cumulative wisdom of judges' decision on individual cases through history. So there are precedences. These cases create legal precedences, and judges used to decide similar cases. Okay, so if you go to the court of law for dispute, they will look for what are the precedences that actually have been tried or have been made judgment. Okay, so that's common law. Okay, that's the one, the first one. I came to know French is actually civil law. So civil law is based on codes, codification, or detailed listing of what is and what is not permissible. If I'm not mistaken, Japan also is inclined towards civil law because they took French, a lot of French laws during the, the setting up of after the Meiji era. Okay. And it's actually originated in biblical times with the Romans who spread it throughout the Western world. And the book mentioned about this, dominance reinforced by the imposition of civil law-based Napoleonic Code on territories. Okay, this by French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, until today. Is it until today, Alman?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, you think so? Okay. So this is what is called. So basically, they are they're based on codes, right? So the one important difference between common law and civil law is the role of judges and lawyers. In a common law, so the judge is actually a neutral referee. Okay, judge. There'll be people who are opposing or proposing to the motions, various motions by the opposing parties. So that is neutral. So these lawyers are responsible for developing their client's case and choosing which evidence to submit on their client's behalf. Whereas in civil law, the judge takes on many of the lawyer's role. That means, for example, determining the scope of evidence to be collected and presented to the court. Okay, so the judge is not a neutral party, but he is going to actually have some say. But in common law, no, the judge will just listen, and will actually make judgment. So that's the main difference that exists between common law and civil law. Okay, but of course, if I do business in France, I need to actually follow that law. Okay, and the company's lawyers, legal department in the company must have someone who is actually conversant of law of that land. Okay, I mean that is common. If you want to do business in Malaysia, then you must understand the common law that is actually being practiced in Malaysia. Even though you are trained as a civil, lawyer, so that is the rule of the game. So you cannot, or you can employ the local lawyers to actually work, what you call, present the case on your behalf. You employ or you take the legal firm in that country to actually defend your case. Okay, so common law, civil law. Another one is religious law. Okay, there are countries which actually uses they call it theocratic. One the example is actually Iran, given by the book, based on the officially established rules governing the faith and practice of a particular religion. I do not know of do you know of any country is actually having a law based on religion? Any other countries? Except other than Iran? I don't think so. Is Tunisia following religious law, Islamic law? Saudi, I think. Saudi.
Yes, I thought of Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
I mean, a lot of concerning Tunisia, I'm not sure. I should check.
But in Malaysia, we actually, in some countries, including in Malaysia, we have what they call the Sharia court, the Sharia court, the Islamic court, and the civil common law courts. So there's a lot of difficulties. Not a lot. There are difficulties whenever there is disputes regarding religious matter, sensitive matter. For example, conversion. Okay, the right of custody for child. When someone convert, for example, a Chinese convert to Islam, and the wife doesn't convert, is the custody of the children, if the fathers say, I'm going to bring up the children, so the wife will bring it to the common law court, and the husband will bring it to the Sharia court. So I mean, those are things which are quite difficult. Right. So the final one is actually bureaucratic law. Let me just, bureaucratic law. It is termed as bureaucratic because when you say bureaucratic, what does it mean? When you say bureaucratic, what strikes your mind? What do you think? What do you have in mind? Norian, I haven't called you yet. Okay, Norian. What come across when we say bureaucratic?
I know that like British have like a bureaucratic law. I think it's when they're like how to say that it's when there is like
too many
the
rules.
Administration,
okay.
Which control
our activities and our behavior.
And like this is like the state who controls the country.
The state control the country. It's like dictator, right? Dictatorship. Actually, it's not. Communist countries and dictatorship is often described as bureaucratic law. For example, China. China used to be very bureaucratic. It's a communist country. Okay, so they don't have law, and that's very harsh. It's a bit harsh. No, not to say they don't have law. They have, how can I say? Bureaucratic law is whatever the country's bureaucrats say. If I say this is right, this is right. This is wrong. You cannot do business here. You can do. So regardless of the formal law of the land, so they have a lot of the rules are decided by the bureaucrats. Therefore, sometimes contracts can be made or broken at the whim of those in power. Okay, so bureaucratic bureaucratic system. So lack of consistency, predictability, and appeal procedures. But today in China, probably it is a combination. It's a combination because they have market economy as well, and it's no more. Is partially communist. The government is communist, but the economy is market economy. So it's a bit headache trying to figure out. Okay, right. Any questions? So these are the four main legal systems that we deal with in many of the countries. We can define this. We can do a research and find a country and investigate whether they follow common law or they follow civil law or they follow this law or they just have a bureaucratic law. Okay, in general. Right. So that's the first thing. So once we have these laws in place, so what is the impact of firms' domestic operations on on these laws? Obviously, we look at the first one. Okay, I'm not going to talk for the second one. So basically, it will affect the way that we manage our workforce in terms of recruitment, compensation, labor relations law, how many days you can take leave. In Malaysia, if you do business, you'll be surprised that every month there will be a holiday. It's like there's too much holiday in Malaysia. So sometimes when expatriates come to Malaysia, they say, we have a lot of festivals. We have Chinese New Year. We have Malay the Muslim holiday, we have Christmas, we have every religion is being tolerated in the country, and you have 20 days of holidays, public holidays. In fact, yesterday was a Vesak Day holiday. Whenever the public holiday falls on a Sunday, the Monday is going to be a holiday in Malaysia. So if you're a company which tries to do very high productivity, you'll be trying to be struggling, trying to produce and meet your production target, for example. Okay, so that must be understood. You need to actually to go to the country and do and find out basically. And financing is operations, marketing a products, and developing using technology. So the domestic oriented laws normally protect the local companies. Okay, that is obvious. All countries will do that. But sometimes these laws will affect competitiveness. So international competitiveness of domestic firm will be affected. Cost will increase and it will reduce your competitiveness if you are following the local domestic law. For example, Germany, they have a high salary government mandated benefit scheme. So if the product is very expensive, basically, that's why BMWs, Mercedes are so expensive in Malaysia, because of their local, but rich people, they can buy, not many people are rich, Alban, not every, but when they export, they are actually losing out to competitors because of their local laws. And also we have to comply to business practices of foreign firms operating outside the country will also need to comply to the local law. For example, complying to hygiene standards of the country in which you export. If the country is low hygiene and safety standards, but if you export to US, for example, you have to comply to or a developed country for that matter. Okay, whatever you produce in a developing country probably is just enough to meet the domestic laws requirement. But once you export to a country, then you need to actually comply to that. Which brings us to law, not to say these are policies and rules, okay, laws designed to regulate foreign companies' business activities in a country, okay, in the host country. So countries use all these methods, okay, to actually regulate the business activities of foreign companies. For example, the current Russian-Ukraine war. What is happening? There's sanctions, right? Sanctions. Why do they have sanctions? To penalize Russia for attacking Ukraine. The whole world is behind Ukraine, or half the world is behind Ukraine. Half of the world is behind, Russia. And of course, these are laws, and it also is related to political as well. Okay, so the political situation resulted into the need to actually, impose sanctions. So sanctions is what? Sanctions is restricting access. Some of the access, including high technology goods. Okay, for example, Malaysia is restricted to actually import nuclear-related parts, components, materials by the Western world. This is no, I've got nothing against Western world. Okay, but this is the fact. Okay, or maybe that is under embargo. Anyway, restricting access to high-tech goods, withdrawing preferential tariff treatment, boycotting the country's goods, and denying new loans. All these are actually sanctions. Okay, what else that actually countries do to actually restrict or to regulate, not to say restrict, but regulate. They call it regulate. So embargoes. What is embargo? It is a comprehensive sanction Sanction is probably just one or two items or three items or certain, industry. But when you say embargo, it's a comprehensive sanction against all commerce with a given country. Sudan is an example, but probably some of the things have been lifted, medical or even food. Recently, they have lifted the embargo. Okay. Right. So this is laws designed to actually regulate foreign companies' business activities. Of course, there are reasons given by the international community to actually impose this this so-called sanctions. Okay. The other one is export control of dual-use product. And this is what I mentioned just now. If the product has dual-use material or products, okay, so many strategically advanced countries limit the export of so-called dual-use products. Dual-use means product can be used for civilian purposes, and at the same time, it can be converted as military purposes. Okay, so those are being basically controlled. Okay, control. Okay, I just read one example. McDonnell Douglas ran afoul of US dual-use control, even their own companies, even US company, when it sold sophisticated machine tools. Machine tools are controlled. Okay, machine tools are being, machine tools, CNC machines, cutting machines, computer numerical control machines are not easily imported to unfriendly countries. So sophisticated machine tool to China National Aero Technology Import and Export Company, which claimed that the equipment would be used to build civilian aircraft. I want to buy the machine because I want to build a civilian aircraft, but the machine can be used to also, because aircraft can be both military, but the tools were shipped to a military factory that builds ballistic and cruise missiles. Or even tiny gyroscope from Boeing. So anyway, this is dual-use products, machines, equipments that cannot be exported to countries which deemed to have some issues. Okay, the other one is the concept of extraterritoriality. Okay, let me just. So this is trying to regulate business activities that are conducted outside their borders. So, for example, companies are vulnerable to US antitrust lawsuit if they engage in activities outside the US that diminish competition in the US market. It gives an example. In one such case, the US successfully sued Pilkington PLC, the British owner of most important patent for producing flat glass, for limiting the ability of its US licenses to use the technology in international markets. The US authorities claim that Pilkington policies hurt US exports. Okay, so they sued Pilkington for not giving the license. Okay, right. So this is to regulate activities beyond their borders. Okay. Right. So you'll see that countries trying to actually invent or create laws that actually regulate or protect their foreign companies' business activities. Okay. Okay, there are many other things. Okay, laws which are directed against foreign firms. That means a country trying to have certain regulations that is directed against foreign owned firms to not to protect but to actually probably ensure that there is ownership issues and so on. So the first one, have you heard of nationalization? I think you know what nationalization is. Okay, you transfer ownership of resources from private to public sector. Okay, so if this is if you invest in a country, then the country say, okay, I want to nationalize this. Okay, I'm going to take over and buy the assets, and it becomes a national, company. Okay. Right, so that's one way. Okay, or the host government compensate the private sector for their losses. This transfer is called expropriation. Okay, when the host government compensates the private owners for their losses, this is expropriation. So when host government do not give any compensation, it's called confiscation. Okay, so that is the risk, basically risk of doing business in a foreign country. Petronas is one of Malaysia's is the biggest, is the oil company. Malaysia oil company is known as Petronas, if you have heard of that. Last year, the facilities in Sudan was confiscated by the Sudan government. And they were actually alleging that the the Petronas operations were bribing Sudanese government officials. And there was and they say, no, we are not going to compensate any of it. We're going to confiscate your business. So it's under dispute now. Okay, so that's what happens. Unstable government, and they can decide to create this. So expropriation versus confiscation, and this is very famous during the 80s, and it was if you have heard of Margaret Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of England in the 80s. So she actually converted state-owned properties to privately owned property, and it's called privatization. Okay, and of course, it's trying to the intention is to make the state-owned business, not non-business, okay, to become much more productive, competitive, become competitive. So British Airways was privatized, British Telecom, Britain started it, Britain, and Malaysia follow suit. Malaysia follow suit, all the utilities were privatized. Now we have to pay for expensive, utilities, more than before, okay? Right. Anyway, these are things which the government can create these laws, okay, and also these policies basically imposing restriction on the ability to repatriate their profits earned, okay, return to the home countries. So some MNCs or companies that actually invest in foreign, they will, if they move all their profits gain and not investing back into the country, the country will not benefit. So there are restrictions. Countries will probably they will set up laws in which they impose certain restrictions of the profits earned. Okay. Controls on repatriation are common among countries facing foreign exchange crisis. Okay, for example, Angola, Venezuela, they actually limit or probably they don't, they will say no repatriation. Okay, right. So, so these are the laws that is created in to actually control foreign firms in the host countries. Okay. Okay, other things, you know, MNCs are actually quite big. Okay, normally they actually give a huge impact on the host countries. The impacts of MNC on host countries covers all these areas, not only economic because of, you know, contribution to the local economic growth and so on, but they also influence political situation, in the country. Okay, they may show their support support, either to the opposition or to the ruling government. So they have influence. And of course, cultural. Okay, cultural in terms of the products or the services that actually introduce or they sell in the country or they invest in the country. If you read here, the entry of Carrefour. Carrefour, is there still Carrefour? There is no more Carrefour in Malaysia. You pronounce it a Carrefour, right? Or Carrefour. It's a French. Is there still in France?
Yes, there are a lot. It's pronounced Carrefour.
Carrefour, okay. Not Carrefour. Okay, Carrefour, okay. So when they enter Chinese market, okay, they actually increase the selection of quality of goods available to the country's consumer. See, so economically, they actually, and of course, influence to culture, right? But this competition, will result into the smaller retail mom and pop vendors to actually suffer. Okay, because these are big, they can buy in bulks, they can get economies of scales. So that's there's a debate, debate in the 80s when big supermarkets enter into Malaysia. Tesco entered into Malaysia. Tesco is a British supermarket, but now they have already left they have sold their their supermarket chains to Lotus, which is actually a Thai-based company. Okay, so this will actually they will impact in terms of cultural and so on. Now, so basically, in general, what we're saying is that there must be some legal framework that exists, or rules and regulation setting up in order to ensure balance between the country's own businesses versus foreign what do you call businesses that actually invest in the country. So the next thing, which is actually quite difficult, quite difficult in any situation in business, is the dispute resolution. Dispute resolution in international business, like the one that we that I mentioned about the South China Sea. Even though it's not totally 100% business, but what are the the main questions? Okay, what are the main questions that actually we need to answer when we try to resolve disputes? Okay, the first question is, when there is disagreement with certain things, so which country's law applies? What do you think? So this is something that you need to answer, or when you go global or you go business, in which country should the issue be resolved? Okay, let's take the first question. If I start or McDonald's sued one company because they use Mac curry. Curry, curry. This is a real story. It's a real story in Malaysia. McDonald's sued McCurry, MC, M small c, and the curry for using, they say they have the IP to the name of Mac. Okay, which country law applies? Do I, I need to, where should you,
With the hosting country?
in this case, the hosting country, okay, you're right, because the host country in which the infringement is said to be done, okay. But can it be also in the host in the home country?
If the other brand is also in the host country, then maybe yes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I don't see how.
Can you put that in the contract?
What do you mean?
Can you put that into the agreement of business when you started the business, when you lay out the, any disputes that is?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, you guess so. You're right. Okay. So it depends. It depends. It can be in the home country, it can be also in the host country. In which country the you're going to actually file your case. In which country should the issue be resolved? Which technique should be used to resolve the conflict? Litigation, arbitration, mediation, or negotiation. So these are the types of techniques that you can use. Okay. So when you resolve that, so which country, and then which law, or which technique. Once you settle, how will the settlement be enforced? Is it enforceable? Is it, some parties will actually, when there is no enforcement, how to actually, resolve that? So these are difficult issues actually, okay? Difficult issues, and of course, because we can always employ lawyers, right, and solve that. Not, we ourselves cannot solve this, okay? So of course, the company must have their legal and also their international business contracts specify answers to questions to reduce uncertainty and expense in resolving disputes. So if a contract does not contain answers to the first two questions, the first two questions just now, okay, which law, which country? So each party to the transaction may seek to have the case heard in the court system most favorable to its own interests, a process known as forum shopping. Okay, so this is the the legal language. You can read that. You can read that in. Okay, I'll read that. If a contract does not contain answers, then you use forum shopping. Forum shopping allegedly places US manufacturers at a disadvantage in international markets. Monetary awards are higher in US markets. So many plaintiffs' lawyers attempt to use this court to adjudicate foreign lawsuit for product defects in US made goods sold internationally. In contrast, a foreign manufacturer of a good sold outside the US would not face the threat of having to defend its product in the US court because the manufacturer lacks a tie to that forum. Okay, so if the dispute in US, you can actually the product defects can be claim in that what do you call in the home country. Another thing, okay, so whether a foreign court is enforced is determined by this principle of comity. So this principle provides that a country will honor and enforce within its own territory the judgment, the decisions of the foreign courts with certain limitations. So countries commonly require three conditions to be met. Number one, reciprocity is extended between the countries. That is, country A and country B mutually agree to honor each other's court decisions. Number two, the defendant is given proper notice. And number 3, the foreign court judgment does not violate domestic statutes or treaty obligations. Okay. So these are all, you know, part of the process basically. And when you cannot, some business conflicts can be resolved through other techniques such as arbitration. So arbitration is the process in which two parties or both parties agree to submit their cases to a private individual or body whose decision they will honor. So this is arbitration. Okay. And there is one another set of what do you call issue which arise when international business is in dispute with the national government. Okay, another set of issue arises when an international business, having dispute with the national government. So this, the legal recourse available to international business in such dispute is limited. For example, the U.S. Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act provides that the action of foreign governments against U.S. firms are generally beyond the jurisdiction of U.S. courts. So U.S. government is, U.S. courts are not going to, hear this kind of cases. Okay. So he gives an example in which if France chose to nationalize IBM French operations or to impose arbitrary taxes on IBM computers, IBM could not use US court to seek redress against the sovereign nation of France. Okay, but this act does not grant immunity for the commercial activities of a sovereign state. If the French government contracted to purchase 2,000 servers from IBM and then rejected the contract or repudiated the contract, refused the contract, IBM could sue France in US courts. Okay, so that is the so-called Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Okay, it's a bit it's foreign to us because we are not lawyers. Okay, I have to admit that these are legal what they call terms, language, and that must be that can understood by the lawyers and people who are actually but as managers, of course, we can get more details and actually understand this. Any questions? No. Alban? Okay. So I'm finished with legal. Okay, it's a very complicated and it's very what do you call verbose, wordish. I'm a technical person, so things which are verbose and wordish are very what do you call a bit complex. Okay. We move on to the technological environment, right? Technological environment of a country doesn't only start from technology alone itself, or machine technology, or because it starts from the foundation of country's technological environment is actually the resources that is actually available in the country. The fertile agricultural land, the rich natural resources of oil, gold, diamond, aluminum, and so on, as well as abundant labor resources. Okay, so are you able to actually, because all rich countries will be able to process them into petroleum products and sell them at a higher value. So either they are exporters of resources or net importer of resources. Okay, and beyond that, you talk about the advanced technologies in terms of automation, machine, and so on. Okay, so if we invest in high technology, then obviously we must know whether the labor resources in that country are able to understand, this so-called advanced technology. Are they creative enough, or are they do they have that knowledge? So, the best resource of a country is actually the human resource. Like Japan. Japan doesn't have much natural resources. Do they have natural resources? Do they have oil? Japan? No. Do they have, what do you call, bauxites, or they have steel? No, they don't. They import all these resources and turn them into, value added. It is an island, which is actually a manufacturing island. They buy all the materials, they produce, and they sell it. Okay, same like China as well. Okay, China, because they have both abundant labor resources and very industrious. Okay, so if you do not have the advanced technology, how to change or shape the technology environment? How do countries actually change the technology environment in the country? Okay, Norian, how do you actually, if for example, Indonesia, you're living in Indonesia, and Indonesia doesn't have a, aircraft industry or aeroplane industry. How do you change that?
I think you have to make like some partnership with countries who does, like you import, and you have, or you can make some invest in those fields.
So you can invest by doing research and development, R&D.
Yeah, also, yeah.
R&D to actually, produce your own aircraft, and probably you get some partners who actually, for example, engine. We don't have to make engine. We can buy from GE. We can buy from Rolls-Royce. Get that technology, unless you want to develop your own indigenous technology. Okay, so countries can actually they need to invest in infrastructure. So one thing is invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure means the factories to build these new equipments or products which require technology. Okay, but of course, countries that develop the technology, for example, nuclear technology, US won't sell that technology freely to Malaysia, or France won't sell it freely to Malaysia to make, military equipments. Okay, so you need to invest in infrastructure and human capital, and it can be done through technology transfer. Okay, like if there is a partnership, then there is an agreement between the partner that you need to transfer the technology or making certain parts. There was a technology transfer for Malaysia when we actually made our own cars. Okay, late 1980s, Tun Mahathir, our Prime Minister, decided that Malaysia should be our own car. So technology transfer with Mitsubishi Corporation. That's, I did tell you, right? I was formerly working in Proton, right? So we went to Japan, learned how to make car. I was in Mizushima, Okayama for 1 year. My job was actually to understand how welding construction of car vehicle. And that technology transfer means I have to understand, and for your information, the technology transfer was using Japanese. I learned how to make car in Japanese. I didn't learn how to make car in English. You understand? Okay, the trainers were Japanese, so they impart the knowledge, and I have to bring back the knowledge and teach the Malaysians. So hundreds of Malaysians have been taught on welding technology, and some of my friends in painting technology. So we came back and we taught the locals about printing technology. So that technology transfer, there was a technology transfer agreement between Proton and Mitsubishi. So they need to transfer this technology. Well, in fact, now Malaysia locals, we can make our own car. We can make our own car. Okay. Same like other, military equipments, buying helicopters or what they call jets, technology transfer. And another important aspect is the determinant of technology willingness to transfer technology is regard to IP protection law in the country, okay, or even the partner willing to share the IP, okay, right. So this can be assessed. So if you want to invest, for example, if Intel has a factory in Penang, so they have to assess the level of readiness of human capital. Graduates from university, do they have knowledge in electronics engineering, for example, or even or even things which are related to technology? Okay, and today we are talking about information technology, digitalization. Everything is internet based. 20 years ago, we cannot. Well, because of COVID, we have this online class. If we don't have COVID, probably we have a face-to-face class. But because of COVID, the acceleration of digitalization has, accelerated. Acceleration of, this usage of digital. So you can, I can, put a camera in front of my house in some way, and I can actually use a handphone to actually view. You can put a webcam in your home, Alban, in your France village or city, and you can see from Korea what is happening. So this is the technology today. Right. So many countries have actually, most countries have passed laws protecting IP, international environment, what do you call, in terms of technological environment, okay, IPR, intellectual property rights. And some even of these rights are promoted by international treaties, and it includes the International Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property Rights, the Paris Convention, the Berne Convention, the Protection of Literary and artistic work, okay, artistic work, and Universal Copyright Convention, trade related. So these are all protections against IPs, okay, intellectual property. So if you look at this, because the problem is pirates or counterfeits. So in terms of software market, the Business Software Alliance said that there's a 46.3 billion revenue cost loss, okay, because of counterfeits. So according to BSA, unlicensed computer software usage costs members 46.3 billion in revenues in 2017. Okay, this table actually, table 3.1 reports the loss to software piracy and the piracy rates for the 15 largest software markets. Okay, but the piracy rate is highest in China. More than half of the software was unlicensed in 68 of the 111 countries. So that's about software. Okay, software. There are many other things. If I can just mention a few more things. Can you tell me what are the things which that you came across which are counterfeits that you have bought, not you have bought, probably you have seen. Or about footwears? Any experience of these counterfeit products, or even luxury items, right? Like handbags, like perfumes. There are imitations, and it's costing the owner or the company that actually developed it. They spend a lot of money on R&D. So research and development is not actually cheap. Alban, any examples that you can think of counterfeited goods that is actually you have come across in Korea or in Japan or in whatever place that you have been? Well, I can give examples of Malaysia, tons of them.
All I think about right now, but I don't know if it's in the topic, is the football jersey.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
That you can
Football
find
jersey
everywhere on the markets and stuff.
Yeah, football jersey. Okay, there is counterfeit products which are abundant in Thailand, in Malaysia. Okay, so the book mentioned one, Colgate Palmolive. They ran into a similar problem of this counterfeit. US FDA discovered that Colgate toothpaste sold in 4 states contain diethylene glycol, a poisonous substance commonly used in antifreeze material substance. So the product was a counterfeit made in China. Okay, but the damage to Colgate's reputation was real. Well, it was found in the US basically because the US FDA found it. Okay. So thanks to FDA action, tragedy was avoided. Such was not the case in Panama, where cough syrup imported from China, also laced with diethylene glycol, was responsible for more than 40 deaths. Okay. So this, well, it's all over the world, counterfeit, and it's when you talk about safety. So these are going to result into death as well. Okay. Right. So I'm not going to, you can read the rest of the examples given in the book. Okay, the final dimension of environment is the political environment. The political environment is very, very sensitive and very difficult, right? Even today, we are faced with, it's a political crisis as well. The Russian-Ukraine war is a political crisis between the world superpowers and the less superpower, okay, or the one who want to become superpower. so there's a race between countries or to actually it's in mankind since ages. People have been fighting to, but business decision that we need to assess political environment. Okay, so how's the situation in Tunisia, Sarah, today? Is the political very stable?
It's not very stable, but I don't know that much, but I just know that it's not very stable.
It's not stable, huh?
The last past years, no, wasn't.
So we need to assess political environment where the firm is going to operate, or even when you already operate, you need to monitor as well. Okay, it's not just one. So any level of government laws and regulation will affect the viability of your business as well. Not only that political situation, but anything, any decision. Adverse changes in tax laws can destroy firm profitability. Civil wars, assassination, kidnapping of foreign business people. So all these things are, things which are related to the political environment or the condition in that country. Is it politically stable? So the keyword is stability, right? Stable. So we can do what you call as the companies do political risk assessment, or there are, you can employ experts to actually do risk assessment. So it's a systematic analysis of political risk in the country. Okay, so political risk you assess. Political risks are actually any changes in political environment that may adversely affect the value of your firm's business activities. So there are three categories of political risks. Three categories. The first one is ownership risk. That means the risk of it being confiscated or expropriated. Okay. Whether you're compensated or you're going to be confiscated. So either you retain your ownership or you're going to lose your ownership. Okay, so that's if suddenly there is like Ukraine today or Russia, people, companies are leaving the country. Companies actually moving out of Russia, for example, not continuing their business. Operating risk, the ongoing operations of a firm or the safety of employees threatened through changes in laws, environmental standards, tax causes, terrorism, armed insurrection, and so on. Okay. And transfer risk, the government interferes with the firm's ability to shift funds into and out of the country. Like just now we talked about repatriation of profits gain from the company. My friend is working in Pakistan. He just came back last week for holiday, and he was telling me that in Pakistan, the operating risk is actually very, very, it's very unsafe. People carry guns. Well, yesterday there was in US also there was a shootout, right? You know about the 10 people who were killed by this maniac. It's unreasonable. There are crazy people out there, so be careful, Alban. You have to just randomly shoot. Yeah. So he was telling me, my friend was telling that many people carry guns, and when he has to go to work, he is being escorted by bodyguards who also carry what do you call weapons. So he's the one of the the head of the one of assembling automotive assembling plant. So that's the risk that he himself in terms of operation, because this being done by the locals. So the locals it's not a safe country basically. So I wouldn't want to go to Pakistan. I better go to Japan or South Korea. Is South Korea very safe country? Very safe. Okay. Right. So you want to go. So this is the example of political risk. So the first one was actually we already mentioned just now, expropriation, the loss of future profits. That means whether you are compensated or not compensated. Confiscation, your assets will be confiscated, taken. So this is the impact, impact of a loss of future profit, loss of assets. Campaigns against foreign goods, loss of sales. The Chinese campaign against Toyota, I think I forgot, a few years back. They actually destroyed Toyota car, like what the US did to Toyota in the 70s, bashing, Toyota bashing. Increased cost of public relation effort to improve public image. Mandatory labor benefits, increased operating costs. So these are labor benefits. So this need to be, the minimum wage has been increased in Malaysia. So companies trying to invest here must be aware of that. Kidnapping, terrorism, disrupted production. So these are the risks. political risk, and you can do assessment. You can actually assess whether it's high or low, okay, from a range of 1 to 10, for example. Okay, Malaysia, kidnapping, terrorist threats, low. Japan, terrorist threats, probably low also, okay. But in Egypt, Sarah, in Egypt, terrorist threats, 1 to 10. A scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, I don't, well,
That's a guess, you know. And
I mean, it's way higher, of course, but 1 to 10. Oh, I don't know.
Okay. I'll give you another
8.
I give you the country. Okay, Afghanistan, terrorist threats, kidnappings.
Okay. Well, then it would be very high.
Hi.
Like I guess 9 or
8,
10.
9 or 10.
Yeah.
Okay, Alban, Afghanistan. This
Like 10.
10. Okay. 10. Yes. Okay, Norian.
I would like to say
Afghanistan.
like 10 out of 10.
10 also. Oh, okay. So your sensitivity is very, very high. Okay. Right. So these are examples of political risk, and in order to reduce the risk of foreign operation, most developed countries have created their government-owned. Okay, they have to have insurance. Okay, or governments to insure firms against political risk. So there are availability. So these are companies or organizations is actually not to say will probably assist or help this or protect this whenever there is losses and so on. So overseas private investment corporation, US government, the subsidiary of World Bank, multilateral investment guarantee agency, of course Lloyd's, private insurance firms such as Lloyd's of London. Okay, so you need to buy insurance, right? Okay, any questions? It's not an easy topic, but it is an important topic in terms of all these three aspects of legal, technological, and political environment that need to be studied or investigated or determined, because it will affect all your decisions. Anything from employment, source of material, or even safety standards. Some countries have very low safety standard. That's why, if you work in if they invest in Bangladesh, there is no such thing as probably, working age. In Malaysia, in Islamic countries, we, 6 years old, 7 years old, you can work. Why not? You can take care of, carry things and so on. So there is no such thing as child labor. What do you mean by child labor? There's no child labor. Everyone can work as long as, So there's a difficulty in terms of the point of reference, right? So in summary, in short, so there are legal systems that actually vary dramatically between countries. Different countries will have to, whenever companies invest, they need to understand the legal systems. And of course, because of that, the laws enacted by or adopted by government can influence the global marketplace in many ways, such as, like we mentioned just now, imposing restriction. We have not talked about barriers of trade yet. Okay, trade barriers and imposing, restrictions, export or import restrictions. US imposed restrictions on, Japan automotive industry can only bring in 1 million cars. More than that, we're not going to. That's imposing, that's trade barrier, right? Okay, trying to protect their local industry, basically. So laws adopted to influence global markets in many ways. And then, and multinationals which are hosting in one country can influence the political, economic, as well as their cultural environments, or even improve safety standards. Okay, multinational that exists can improve safety standards in countries as well. The resolution of international disputes is actually a very important dimension of legal environment. And then technological environment is a very important facet of national business environment. How attractive the physical resources are, the labor supply, and of course the protection of intellectual property, okay, and also enforcing that. And finally, we are international business are going to be subjected to political risk, okay, and the companies must continuously monitor political situations. You know, anything can happen. Anything can happen anytime. Murphy's Law. Have you heard of Murphy's Law? Do you know what Murphy's Law states? It's not a law of, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I repeat, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Okay. So we must be vigilant to these changes. Philippines had just got a new president who is the son of the son of Ferdinand Marcos, that dictator. Ferdinand Marcos is a dictator. In history is written. I'm not saying because it's written, right? It's written. So you have to monitor the situation through the embassy or local staff, and look at the risks. Okay. In fact, I was in Sudan during the uprising in 2019. I was there actually. We had a program in January 2019 in Sudan, and when there was the riot. But of course, the place of riot was far from my hotel. It was not, near. But my counterparts advised me, local staff, sir, don't go out. Sir, stay in your hotel. So those are, conditions. It's very high risk. Yeah, it's very high risk. Right. Any questions? Any questions? No question? I ask you one question. Can I ask one question? I can ask you many questions. No, I'm not going to ask you many questions. You can, at the end of the chapter, there is, this set of questions that probably, it's good to just go through some of them and try to answer, and, because remember, you have a test, right? Remember, you have a test. Oh no, 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, okay? Anyway, what form of test I've yet to decide. Okay, any questions? Anything that you like to know? I haven't discussed about your project, right? You have a class project actually. Class project. So I have not put up in the OMG. I will put up in the OMG, the class project, because there is 3 of you. Probably I need just one group project. One group project. Okay, 3 of you will do one group project. Okay, so I will put it in the OMG, and if you have questions, we'll discuss it in the class. Okay. Right, which is actually due at the end of the semester, so you have ample time to actually do it. We are now on week 4, if I'm not mistaken. So we have 14 weeks, so we have 10 more weeks. Okay. Right, so we'll adjourn our class today. Thank you very much.